which is an Italian comfort dish called pasta fagioli. And for those of you who don't know what pasta fagioli means, it's beans and pasta. Some of you have heard pasta fagioli called pasta fazool, which is it's been derived from its Neapolitan name. So should we get started?
We should get started. So tonight I am going to be Carmen's sous chef, and I can attest to the fact that Carmen is smiling. She's been smiling all afternoon, but you just can't see it, maybe in her eyes. Yes, so it's a pleasure to have you here tonight. Chef Robert, thank you for letting us use your kitchen.
The twist to this dish is we will be using 16 beans instead of your traditional cannellini beans. So we're going to get started, but before I want to explain, to get to this point, we already boiled the beans. So when I'm using or cooking with beans, I like to use dry beans. The reason for that is that the beans have a lot more flavor and they have a better texture. So I prepared the beans the night before. You take the dry beans, it's a pound of dry beans. It doesn't matter which type of beans they are. You place them in a large bowl with cold water. You cover by about like 2 inches above the beans. And then you place it in the refrigerator overnight, or you can keep them, soaking for at least 8 hours. So when you're ready to prepare the beans like we were today, we took out the beans and we drained the water from those beans and we rinsed them and we placed them in a large pot. We added 8 cups of cold water and we placed it on a stovetop and we started to boil the beans. As soon as the beans begin to boil, you simmer them until they're tender, which takes you to this point right here. We're going to use the beans in a little bit, but we're going to now get started with the actual soup. I'm going to take a tablespoon.
Pardon, we actually have a question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah. Why do you refrigerate the soaked beans?
Robert, you were going to tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about beans? So, a little bit.
He's an expert at beans.
Well, I don't know if I'm an expert. I love to eat beans, but so a little bit about beans. So back a little history on the pasta. You say it, please. Thank you. Is that back when probably in the Roman Empire they only used black-eyed peas for this. That's really all that was around at the time. And then moving into the 1950s, then cannellini beans and borlotti beans, which are a little bigger than cannellini beans, were then used at that point. But there's a few reasons why we soak them as well, is that especially if you're eating beans a lot, they actually, when you soak them in water, it's just very high starch. Okay, there's a lot of starch in beans, which means there's a lot of sugar in beans. So it releases the sugar. And the other thing is there's a phytic acid, which is a non-nutrient, from what I understand, that it inhibits the absorption of zinc, calcium, manganese. I will leave this up to the medical school to correct me on this, and I don't want to get deep further into it, but there are a few other reasons to do that. Plus, they cook faster.
They cook faster. I was just going to say.
So to refrigerate them, things that are in high starch. If you leave a potato out that's in high starch, if you leave it out room temperature, it will go bad. So the reason why you refrigerate them is so it doesn't go bad. So in starches, there's a lot of bacteria. So that's why we refrigerate them. We don't leave them in room temperature. I hope that answers the question.
That's an amazing explanation, and that's a great question. All I know is the reason why I soak the beans is because it actually cuts the cooking time. So, and that's another reason. But again, like the dry beans, it's just a flavor. It's a great flavor compared to canned. But if you're running out of time, using canned beans is perfect. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And we're going to add 6 ounces of pancetta, which is Italian bacon. And Robert, you had a great tip that you told me about when cooking or cutting pancetta, because pancetta could also be found at your local grocery store. Sometimes Boar's Head, it already comes diced, but this piece, as you can see, this is normally what you find at your local Italian specialty store. Either it comes in a large piece like this, or sometimes it comes in cut in strips. But for this recipe, you need it diced. But Robert, tell us.
Well, the first time I cut my finger almost off, I decided, well, there's got to be an easier way to prepare pancetta. So what I did was I froze it to make it a little stiffer, because there's a lot of fat in pancetta. So freezing it to a point where it's not totally frozen makes it a little easier for you to slice. It's interesting because pasta fagioli, many people make it in different ways. They use a cured meat. Some use bacon, some use Italian bacon pancetta, some use prosciutto. Difference between the three of them, they're all cured meats. Prosciutto is cured, but it's usually cured for about a year. Bacon is usually cured for it could be less than a week and up to 3 weeks or even further, but it's also smoked. Pancetta is cured for about 3 weeks. And you typically roll it the way you're seeing it here too, and not like a slab. The prosciutto comes from the back. All pork products comes from the back leg. The pancetta and the bacon come from the pork belly.
We have another question from the audience.
Excellent.
They would like to know, can this dish be made vegetarian?
Absolutely. All you need to do is just eliminate the pancetta, and you have a vegetarian bean dish. That's very tasty, because there's another, aside from the twist being the 16 beans, we're going to add wine later on to the dish. And it brings in a lot of flavors. You have onions, you have garlic. So just eliminate the pancetta. Any other questions?
Very nice.
How am I doing?
Really good.
So we're almost done. Sometimes, like when I look for pancetta, it doesn't come in 6 ounces. It'll come in 4. So 4 is also, a good amount to use when making like a bean dish. So you're dicing it up, and we're going to add it to the olive oil. And the next thing we're going to do is chop up a large onion.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue.
Okay.
Because you have a special way.
Well, I'm a stickler when it comes to the onion, not to waste an onion. And typically what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll take the top off and then go to the core end, then come around with a paring knife and peel it. Now, onions are interesting too, because at different times of the year, onions, the skin in the summertime, it usually is a little less thick. In the wintertime, because of the weather, it's usually thicker. As far as the sweetness, also high in sugar. So I like this. So very little waste, looks nice. What I like to do is, so you come down the middle, this is the core end, you leave the core in. And then you come this way, depending on how large the dice you want. If you want a large dice, I'd come up here. If you want a small dice, it depends on how you come in and make the dice. And as you can see, it flies all over the place too. Usually I have a lot of stuff on the floor when I'm done. So that's where my son comes in and he has to vacuum the floor. He's my sous chef at that time. How much onion did you need, chef?
A
whole large onion? Okay. Chef Rob, next capital project, we need a new stove.
smell is so yummy. It smells delicious.
Okay, ready for the onion, chef?
Yeah. Perfect, thank you. So we're going to saute the pancetta and the onions and the olive oil until brown. Robert, so you know so much about food. Where did you train?
Well, I was fortunate enough to go to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park. And then from there, I was fortunate enough to work in the city at many different French restaurants. My background is French, cooking, Restaurant Danielle, some old Côte Basque, River Cafe, working with a few chefs. And then I trained in France for a bit.
Did you?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate.
Did you ever train in Italy? Have you ever
I have never been to Italy.
Wow.
That's why I can't say pasta fagioli.
Pasta fagioli.
Fagioli. A little bit more?
Yeah. Just to get
Okay.
it going. Pasta fagioli. Chef Robert, where did you train?
Similar story. I'm actually an NYT graduate. I went to the culinary program in Central Islip back in 2007. And then I started working here in about 2009. And I was fortunate enough to, Robert sent me over to the Culinary Institute to continue my training there. And I was also fortunate enough to train in Danielle and some of the cool French restaurants in Manhattan. So yeah, that's my background to doing this. I've been here for about 12 years now.
Robert's a very, very talented chef. One of the things that I've noticed about him since we've been here, he's really brought these Swarovski mansions level of cuisine to another level because he loves to cook. The passion for cooking shows every day in everything that he does.
Thank you.
I'm always so impressed with like all the different events that I've been to here and the food, the presentation, so creative, really amazing. So the next thing, while Robert, my sous chef, is browning the pancetta and the onions, what I'm doing is I'm actually going to cutting up a garlic. We need 1 tablespoon of garlic. I'm going to add it to the pancetta and to the onions. I don't know. I usually use a garlic press, but because I'm sitting in a very high-end master chef kitchen, they don't use garlic press. So I have to chop it up manually. So, but that's okay. I'm learning. How am I doing, chef?
Good. Great job.
Tablespoon of garlic. And then we're going to do the next thing we're going to add is a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, which will give it like a nice heat to the dish. And for those of you who want to kick it up a couple of notches, you could just add, what do you think, another teaspoon works?
I think you're good there.
Yeah?
Maron.
Madonna mia. Oh, look who's here. How's it coming?
How do you say beautiful in Spanish?
Bellissimo.
Bellissimo.
In Spanish?
In Spanish, you're doing something Italian.
Did I say Spanish? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Looks wonderful.
You think it's brown enough?
I think
A
that
little
it
bit more,
can go.
right? A little bit more. Okay. Oh, look, who's our special guest tonight?
What a nice
Di
surprise.
Maria Perfellini. Maria, we're making pasta fagioli. It is?
Well, it's very typical in the north of Italy.
Tell us a little bit about like the way it's prepared in the north.
Oh, well, my grandma used to have that dish. When we were kids, you know, it was really, really fun. All about cooking together and ingredients and learning of the process, all things. It
Nice.
reminds me that time. So thank you for inviting me.
You know what? I was thinking Italian, pasta fagioli, and Robert keeps calling it pasta fazool.
My grandmother's rolling right now.
We're going to add 28 ounce of crushed tomato.
Or you can come back here and watch. Yeah.
Yeah, want to come back here, Maria? So tell us about the ingredients that Maria. Tell us about the ingredients that
Look at that.
that you use for your pasta fagioli, because tonight we're actually have a little twist to this dish.
Yeah,
It's not your traditional.
I see.
We're gonna use 16 beans,
Yeah.
and we're going to add wine to
Yeah.
the dish.
So what kind of beans did you use?
We're gonna use 16 beans. It's right behind. It's right here. And so we already boiled the beans. They're all different types.
I see. See, my grandma used to have it with the red beans.
Oh, see? So everybody makes it different.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna add a cup of wine.
So, Carmen, you used to cook this at home?
Yes, I've actually, this is a little different. Like I thought it would be something different to make. This is using the 16 beans, but I usually use most of the time cannellini, the white beans.
Okay.
So we're gonna use a cup of wine.
So that's a lot.
I think we should taste it, but we can't right now. Let's see. So when, one of the things when cooking with wine, make sure that it's good table wine that you enjoy drinking yourself when you're, cooking with it. So
You mean you cook and you drink?
exactly. That's what I like to do.
I'm not admitting to that on camera.
No.
So you add the wine and it adds a lot of richness
And
to
then
it.
Little pasta, that's correct.
Right.
Little vitamini. They're all set. Mmm.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to add some soup stock. We're going to add 4 cups of the soup stock. So good soup stock is really important.
Like meat? From meat or from chicken?
Chicken soup stock. Yep. Chicken soup stock is really important to get a good chicken stock. The best is, of course, homemade stock. But there are a lot of different companies that make really good stock. So we're going to add 4 cups. Of the stock.
Question, Carmen.
Yes.
Keeping on the vegetarian question from before, you could use vegetable stock as well?
Yes, vegetable stock would be perfect for this. Okay. So we're going to add this to
Oh,
our
wow.
dish.
Yeah, because you have to cook the pasta on it.
Yeah.
So.
Right, exactly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a tablespoon of salt.
Okay. Because the broth is not salty.
You know, it's a lot of beans because we're using a pound, but some, you know, if you don't like it too salty, then
To adjust a little
yeah, you
bit.
adjust it. Right, exactly.
And you know what my grandma used to do? She was taking some of the beans and reduce them like a puree.
That's what we're gonna do.
You are gonna do that? Okay.
Yes.
So it's more creamy.
Yes,
right?
exactly, exactly.
Oh, delicious.
So we're gonna add a tablespoon of salt, and then we're gonna add a teaspoon of black pepper, which I'm gonna just.
So Robert, this is where you create all these wonderful meals for
Well, this is where Chef Robert
And
creates
Chef
it now.
Robert.
This is where all the magic happens, right
that's
here.
the magic.
The hell of Chef Robert.
I mean, 5-star, you know?
Thank you.
It's very kind of you.
We miss you.
Oh, we miss
We
you
really
too.
do. 5-star meals.
Now we're gonna take a cup of the fettuccine,
Italy, yes.
and we're gonna use this. You can use any small pasta, but usually the two special pastas that when you're making pasta fagioli is either ditalini or tubettini.
Tubettini. Small size.
Exactly.
Question, Carmen.
Yeah.
Why small? Why small pasta?
Because the beans are small, so and it's you won't only you're not eating a pasta dish per se. You know, you want to have like a nice combination of the beans, with the pasta, and why we add the pasta to the dish is because we want the pasta to cook within the broth, and because the pasta has starch and it actually adds creaminess and it thickens the soup.
Right. It's a good balance,
Yeah.
right, of size and
It is,
and flavor.
and flavor. So while this cooks, what we're going to make is we're going to make some grilled Italian bread. Robert, if you wouldn't mind helping me cut in this. We're going to grill it, and we're going to grill it with some olive oil, some salt and pepper, and it's going to be great for dipping.
So we have our makeshift grill here in the cast iron pan because we don't have our chop broiler working tonight. We'll baste with a little bit of foil just to get it started. Oh, I guess you like bread.
This is the best part. The dipping and the delicious sauce. So as that grills, we're going to take a little bit of salt and pepper, and we're going to add it to the bread.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, perfect. So, we need to add now the beans to the blender. So we're gonna take two cups of the beans. And we're going to puree them with a little bit of stock, chicken stock. And the reason why we puree the beans is it adds, like what you said, Maria, it adds creaminess and it thickens the pasta fagioli.
That's right. Oh, that's delicious.
Okay, perfect. So this is about 2 cups.
I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken broth to this,
Right.
just
Just
to be
to
a
add a
little
little
bit fry
fry,
a
just
little
like
easier.
And then what we're gonna do is take the remaining beans and place them.
Boil
Yeah.
them previously?
Yes, we set them up. What we did was we soaked them overnight
Yeah.
because we use fresh beans.
Yeah.
We soaked them overnight
Yeah.
and then we cooked them today.
Mm,
You do it overnight or you do it for like 8 hours.
that's right. Let's say the evening or the day before.
Exactly.
Overnight.
Mhm.
Oh, that's the best.
So let's look at Robert. Beautiful.
Yeah, spoon machine vitamin.
Doesn't it look great?
Yeah.
Let's get thank you.
So, can you help cooking for us?
I mean, we could. We actually help out the hospitality program and do internships for the hospitality students. So they get to come in here and kind of learn and cook alongside us. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
So as this cooks and the pasta becomes tender,
Spectacular, Carmen. Wow.
so Maria, there's 2 other ingredients that we're going to add to this dish. But
it
the,
looks
but the
really
pasta has
nice.
to cook until it's
Yeah. Maybe
tender. So what we did was we made another pot. So because this is going to cook for maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll have this cook. But when this is cooked and the pasta is tender, what you add is a cup of Parmesan cheese.
I see.
And then you also add red wine vinegar,
Really?
a tablespoon. And why you add the red wine vinegar, it actually wakes up the other ingredients. It really adds like a really nice, like it actually brings out the other flavors in the
I
dish.
see. That's I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
The vinegar.
As you can see, when we added the ditalini, how small they are, and see how they expand in the dish.
Exactly.
So as the question that we had was, why a small pasta? As you can see, the pasta and the beans are almost like equal in size in a way. So that's what you want. You want like the right bite, and the right flavors all in one spoonful.
Oh wow. Excellent job.
Jose, can you come around here for a minute? I want to introduce you as well for setting up this beautiful display and table setting tonight. Jose Portillo, he's our dining manager at the Decent
Thank you,
Restaurant.
Jose. Great job. Beautiful.
Appreciate all the support, Jose.
So as we heat up the pasta fagioli, what we're going to get, we're going to also julienne the fresh basil. And there's nothing like fresh herbs. So when we serve the pasta fagioli, we're going to add some fresh basil to that. And we're going to drizzle some olive oil and, of course, add more of the Parmesan cheese to the dish. It's not easy cutting with gloves on. Not easy. But I just wanted to cut off and
I break it by hand.
yeah, maybe that's the best way to do it because it's hard to.
But
Yeah.
also they say,
What's another way
There's
to do
also, let me show you a little trick.
it? Yeah, let's see the tricks.
All right.
We need tricks.
yeah, you overlap.
So you pick all the leaves together,
Uh-huh.
right?
And then you overlap them.
You overlap them, and then
That's
you
right.
roll them up like this.
Oh,
Oh.
I like that.
Roll them up in a little ball.
You can do that from 7 feet away?
Yeah, I got
Wow.
long arms, so
That's why he's the executive chef.
yeah. Julienne's better basil than me.
Wow. That's awesome.
There you go. Little tip.
Beautiful.
Look at
All right.
mine compared to his, okay?
We learned something tonight.
Can you do Leanne a couple of more leaves while you're at it? Because it adds freshness to the dish.
That's right.
When you have like fresh basil or any type of herbs, it really brings out the flavors.
Amazing flavor. I love the smell of basil too.
I do.
Right?
Oh, it's fantastic.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank
All right,
you.
my pleasure.
Excellent.
Bravo.
So now, we're going to plate
You want to
the
use this ladle or you-
pasta fagioli.
This ladle.
Okay.
This one. Yeah, I switched them.
Okay. Thank you. Maria, what was your favorite dish growing up in Italy?
My mom with my grandma used to have at home fresh pasta that they were made by hand, you know, like tagliatelle, fettuccine, or we used to bake a lot of dishes. For example, a fresh homemade lasagna, you know, with bechamel, not with ricotta cheese, with bechamel,
Oh, I love that.
with veal ragu,
Oh.
lighter, you know, and a lot of Parmesan cheese.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. Lots of baked stuff. Cannelloni, but also risotto.
That's something that we should make on the series, in our cooking series, is risotto, because risotto, there's a lot of things that you could do with risotto. You could make seafood risotto, or just all different types of like
Right.
wild mushrooms, which I love.
Or ravioli homemade.
So now we plated the pasta fagioli.
Sorry.
We're going to add some fresh basil, right, to the dish, and some Parmesan cheese, and some olive oil. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of the olive oil. that look amazing?
Amazing.
With a little bit of the grilled Italian bread. It's a work of art.
Bravo.
Beautiful.
Whoever's following us this evening, I hope that you enjoyed this meal. Pasta Fagioli, please, send in any other questions that you may have. Alumni Relations will be sending out a survey to, give us your feedback on how we did this evening. And I thank you. I thank you for joining us. Now I get to taste it. No, Maria gets to taste it. Maria. So
What a
let's
privilege.
have you sit here. We set up a special table for you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Carmen. I have to say that this is a treat. What a treat. I'm more than happy to be here and trying this delicious dish. And plus, my memories goes back home. So thank you, everyone, for having me here tonight. Thank you. We tried. How do I do?
Get the take on here. Get to take a sip.
Allow?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Nobody's around me. It's safe to try. Perfetto.
Oh, good.
Buonissimo. Delicious.
Delizioso.
Delizioso.